All right, everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going into our second match. If you missed the first one on YouTube, we did a deep dive into Subliners versus Surge. You can check it out on the channel. Today, we're going to go over the second match, which is Miami Heretics versus Atlanta FaZe. I believe the number 1 versus the number 8 seed. So let's get into it. Head-to-head on the year, not looking great for Miami. A 3-0 to FaZe. Last game that they played was a 3-1 during Major 4 qualifiers. You'd see here 5-1 in hardpoint, 2-1 in search, 2-1 in control. You have some map wins, but honestly, a lot of the matches, and we'll get into it more, for Miami haven't been good against the top 4, except I believe for 2 of them, which we saw one of them on LAN at Major 4, but it's really only been Optic. Anytime they have played a FaZe, an Ultra, a New York, I believe they have lost. So tough one going into it, but let's go ahead and look at the last match that they played. And this again was during the Major 4 qualifier. You played a Vista. That was a 3-point game. Pretty darn close. These two are big because high rise for both of these teams, I think it's probably going to be really important. And the fact that FaZe opted to play them on both of that, I think is, we'll see if they ego it. But when you look at the Miami map pool, they have strengths and then singular strengths. Then once you move away from those, there's just a lot of question marks. But a 3-point Vista, a 6-star hardpoint, and then Miami won the high-rise control. So the match, it was online. I think if you look at the stats, yeah, I mean, Javi has a really tough one here. Minus 27. That is ugly. That's my son, but that's an ugly one. And he really struggles in this matchup. Just in the head-to-head on the year. Kind of what we just talked about. There's some key ones. 0.73 for Javi on the year. Abizi on the other side loves this matchup. Maybe some of his best stats at a 1.2 overall. A 1.58 in the search and destroy. His opening dual win percentage is near 78% alongside Cell at 75%. That is just really good. You don't see that too often. So Abizi loves this matchup. On the other side of it, as good as the ARs have been, Lucky and Metals, not the same stats that we've been seeing from them recently, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But those are kind of the two that stand out to me. Obviously, when you're 3-0, your stats are going to look really good, but the two players to watch out for, and they play very similar roles, is Abizi and Vickle, and one is much stronger than the other. Stage 4, let's get to Miami, into the Heretics, in kind of on their stage 4 recent form, how their major went, what to kind of look out for. So you see 7-11 in hardpoint. The problem is, though, is that their hardpoint was really bad at LAN, 1-5 there. And of course, you get the match win over Optic, but you didn't win any of the hardpoints. Right, you did it through a 2, 3, and 5. I guess the Rio was close, but that was one where Optic had a crazy comeback, wasn't it? Again, that high-rise control that people are playing Miami on, I'm not sure how much they'll see of that at Champs. But yeah, you won both the hard points, but you did it through 2, 3, 5. Round 11, Karachi, Search and Destroy. But kind of what we just talked about here with Javi, he probably has their best series. Well, he does stats-wise. He's got a plus 10. Everyone else is right around even, but with, talking about top 4 teams and their matchups, you're really looking at their subs. Real has been great for them in Search and Destroy, but in Respawn, if you have someone like Vickle, and I'm not saying he needs a 1.12, but a 0.73 versus FaZe isn't going to cut it. So maybe see how his performance is. All right, hard points. Only map win at Major 4 was Vista. Vista was their best map through Stage 4 at 3-2, but they've been 2-8 in their last 10 hard points. And then kind of what I talked about with the ARs. So you went from a 1.08 to a 0.84 at Major 4 if you were lucky. And then you went from a 1.15 to a 0.95 at Major 4. So these two players, I mean, Metals has been insane, especially if you look at just overall of Stage 4. Metals really stepped it up. He led the way. But him and Lucky drop off a bit. Where on the other side, online to LAN, the two who didn't drop off were Vickle and Real. They have very similar stats. Like, it's right around a 0.95, I want to say. Yeah. You see right here, it's right around a 0.95. They carry very similar stats at Major 4. So that when you're moving forward, I mean, if this team wants to have any chance, I think you're going to need a much better performance out of the ARs at Champs going into it. So that's a look at their hardpoint. S&D. So if you look at their top 6 run at Major 3, they were 5-0 at S&D, 5-0 at Major 3. You did not get the same thing here. The thing was, at Major 3, they played only 6-star and Invasion. Only those 2 maps. Pretty much everyone moving forward at Stage 4 vetoed 6-star versus them. So if you look at Stage 4, they only played 6-star once. They lost it. They played Invasion 3 times. They didn't stay undefeated there. So again, map pool is going to be a big thing. Teams playing them are going to have a choice. Do you either veto Karachi or do you veto 6-star? You can see it 4-1 throughout stage 4. So again, just map pool. If you get rid of Karachi, is their 6-star going to be that good again is a big question mark. They auto-vetoed Rio throughout stage 4. One good thing to take away, they were 2-0 on map 5s throughout the stage. But you'd see 6-6 through the stage, 4-1 on Karachi, 2-5 elsewhere. Like, this team has really strong singular maps in every single game mode. Well, really control in S&D. 4-1 here, 5-2 on high rise control. It's just a question of what happens when those are vetoed at champs. They're just going to have a better map pool for champs. I didn't know this, but control, looking at Heretics, 2-9 in stage 3. They had a massive turnaround, similar to Surge in the last video, where they got that up to 6-4. This is pretty much how they qualify for champs. They got their control a lot better. They've been decent on the year in hardpoint and search, but they were really, really bad in control. 2-9 is not good. So major turnaround there. But again, it's this 5-2 on high rise. Once that's taken away for them, how strong are they going to be in that game mode? So something to look out for if you are a Miami fan. This is just their control stats throughout the stage. It's all right around a 1. But I think one thing to note is their defense on high-rise control. Well, especially the defensive KD. 1.1s, 1.3 for Real. They were 13-2 in defensive rounds on high-rise. Ranked number 1 throughout the stage. So, yeah, very strong on their high-rise defense. All right, now looking at FaZe. Not much really to go. Not a lot of negatives to look at outside of their finals at the major. Really throughout this stage. They were number 1 S&D in control record throughout the season. If you look at just this stage, they were number 3 hardpoint team, number 1 search team, number 2 control team. They had a perfect map count going into the final at 9-0. So it's just kind of a question of what happens going into the final. If you look at some of the stats, or if you just want to look at the stats, if there is sort of like who doesn't play well in the losses in the final. Now, Major 1, they had 11 points hardpoint. They had a 13-point hardpoint versus Ultra, but Ultra just was further ahead. They were absolutely the best team. You know, the one player there that maybe stands out is Abizi. Again, they are a couple of kills away from maybe this going a different way. Then similar here versus New York. You just didn't get the best performance out of Abizi and Draza, but they lose a 6-star hardpoint, which was their first 6-star loss throughout the stage. They lose a Rio hardpoint, which was their first Rio loss on the year. And then they lose a search and a control. But, you know, then you compare it to their Major 2 win, where you get like a +2 out of Abizi. Again, I'm not saying it's on one player. They also clutched up in some of these hard points. They had a lot of close games versus Optic. It was a 20-point hard point, 20-point hard point. Like, if you compare it to Major 1, they just won the close hard points. So I think 2 things to look out for FaZe if they're going to make it to Sunday is Abizi, how he's playing, and then their close hard points. Do they clutch them out? Because it feels like those are the 2 difference makers for them in finals specifically. All right, hardpoint just throughout the stage. Again, they started to focus it a little bit more on sub-base. They vetoed it, but they go 3-1. They played it once versus Surge at the major. We talked about that in the last video. Ended up beating Surge on it. So I don't know if it's something to guarantee they're going to play a lot of, but if they maybe play an Ultra or an Optic, they might play it. Maybe even a New York, but I think New York are just going to veto it versus them. Try to play everything else. But something to look out for if that sub base comes through. One thing to look out, though, for their hardpoint going from, stage 3 to stage 4 is their Vista. Stage 3, they were 6-0 on Vista, so they were undefeated. Where then if you look at their Major 4, it drops off a bit. Well, a lot. They're 1-3, so in their last 4. So they started off undefeated. Maybe they look elsewhere. They really worked hard on their 6-star, but their Vista fell off. And I think a big part of that is they were ranked 12th in their hold percentage. So throughout stage 4, it was ranked 1 in stage 3, ranked 12th in stage 4. So something to look out for with their Vista. On the other hand, they worked on Vista, but their 6-star was, it was insane. Again, only losses in the final in stage 4. Overall, just KDs throughout the stage. Everybody's right around a 1.0, 1.11 by Simp, 0.99 by Abizi, but you have 3 players in the top 15. Again, outside of your 2 hardpoint losses in the final, there's not much of a weakness there. They even got Rio. They got 6-star. Like I said, they just lost both of them. A big part of their resurgence in the last stage was their search and destroy. They went from 6-7 in stage 3 to a 12-3 in stage 4. They play every single map. Number 2 attacking team, number 1 defending team in stage 4. One thing that was a little bit, as I was going through the stats, that was interesting, was their opening duel percentage was rank 8 at 48. But when they did get the opening duel win, they had a #1 conversion rate. So that's basically when you get the first blood, are you turning that into a round win? So your 4-on-3s, are you winning those rounds? So they have the #1 stat in that. But their opening duel win percentage was lower, but they were still 12-3. So something to look out for their search and destroy. They were 10-1 in map 2s, 2-2 in map 5s. I think a lot of this is probably due to the veto process. They're picking Team B, so they're getting their map pick in map 2. And then 8-7 in map 5. So when they have gone the distance, it has gone a little hairy for FaZe. And I think we know that. So just when the pressure's on some of the big moments, it hasn't always gone their way in search and destroy. Control stats for them, 8-4 throughout stage 4. They were #1 attacking, #1 defending team. They only had two defensive rounds lost at Major 4. One of those happened to be against New York, an invasion. What was that? Without round 5. They played everything. At the Major, though, they stayed away from Karachi. They went 4-1 on invasion and high rise. Again, one loss is in the final. One thing to note is Celium has a 1.66 in their defense KD, where Simp has a 1.18 on attacking KD. Simp might be the one of, maybe like Hydra as well, the best attacking control player. And then Cell has a 1.66 on defense. I don't know. That just seems stupid to me. Seems really dumb. I don't know. The guy just, I guess, gets to his spots. He's only got a 0.89 on offense. But again, sometimes if you're a main AR playing an invasion, you're stuck in your base, your life can be hell. But I thought that was an interesting stat to look at. That was it for FaZe. Overall series talking points. Just looking at this winner's round 1 matchup for me. Which Vickle do we get? Again, he has a 0.73 versus FaZe, where their 1 win versus the top 4 team on LAN. He looked a lot better. Can Metals and Lucky be more consistent here on LAN? The weak map pool, right? What we talked about is a little bit concerning for me. Just looking at, again, their control and their search and destroy. If you take away those two, they are 2-5 elsewhere in search throughout Major 4. They were 1-2 elsewhere. Again, FaZe pick a lot of Team B so that they can veto control to give them, one of their better map picks. So wouldn't surprise me if they get rid of high rise there. Yeah, we kind of talked about how they've only beaten a top 4 team twice. I think for FaZe, sort of talking points, are they going to ever lose a winners round 1? Maybe. Their Vista hardpoint, I think, if they can turn that around just for their overall map pool in hardpoint, I think it's going to be big for them. Teams like Optic, teams like Ultra, teams like New York, they all opt to play Vista. Again, they were undefeated throughout stage 3, but can they bring that back up? And then I guess what maps are we playing with FaZe? They have a lot of choice. It probably depends on matchup to matchup, but what do they want to focus on going into champs? For this series, all right, let's go to the vetoes. FaZe like to pick Team B. So that would give Heretics the first map ban. Let's look at Major 4. They veto a lot of Rio, so I think most teams are going to veto Rio still versus FaZe, even though they had one slip up against New York, but I don't know if anyone else is going to do it. So I'd probably go Miami veto Rio, FaZe would then veto. They could just do their sub-base veto and stick with that. I think they're okay playing it, but I feel like it's a map pick that they want to play versus the top 4, not necessarily the rest. But I think this could go 2 ways. They'll either veto sub-base, and that will allow Miami to pick Vista and FaZe to pick, I'm going to assume Karachi, because Miami would either pick Vista or 6-star. FaZe could go 6-star too. Yeah, they picked it 4 times. Yeah, FaZe is just tough because they have a lot of options. A lot more than other teams. I'll stick with this. Actually, I'll go 6-star here. I think this is my best guess. If I had another guess, it would be Vista vetoed and then Miami to pick sub-base. That is my other guess, my assumption for hardpoint. Search-wise, so what FaZe would get first search? Let's look at FaZe. Vetoed high rise 4 times. You have 2 maps to pick, either Karachi you veto or 6-star you veto versus Miami. Again, their 6-star wasn't great this stage, but if you look at Major 3, they were 5-1 there. I mean, they played them on high rise last time. Picked Karachi a lot this stage. I'm going to think FaZe veto. I'm going to go high rise. Miami veto. They always veto Rio in their auto veto. See, vetoed it 10 times throughout stage 4. And then they're going to pick Karachi, right? I actually think this could be good for Miami. FaZe pick Karachi. Miami pick 6-star. One changeup could be this, is they veto 6-star here. And then you would go Karachi here and high rise here, right? This invasion is open. It's always so tough with FaZe. I think this is probably my choice. I think they'd probably go high rise in Karachi. Let's see the last matchup again. I think they played high rise, right? It was high rise 6-star. Yeah. So 6-star. They must have vetoed Karachi then. Yeah, there's lots of options with FaZe, but that's what I'm going to go. I then think for control, FaZe, Veto, what, high rise? The Miami have a choice here. This is just another one where I think FaZe may just not want to play. They lost this one. I could see this being the same maps. I could see them just not wanting to play Karachi. But I'm going to go FaZe, Veto, high rise, Miami, pick Karachi. That's going to be that's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm going with. So, all right, that is my deep dive. My map picks into FaZe versus Heretics. Hopefully you enjoyed. As well, my editor wanted me to say this, so shout out to them. That I will be doing a predictions video after all of this. So before Champs next week, I'll be making a bracket on top of this. So I'll be doing every single matchup. Up next, we have Ultra versus Thieves. And then when these all come out, at the end of that, I will do a bracket predictions video for Champs. So hope you're enjoying the content. Thank you for watching. Leave a like. I love you. See you next time.